Very quick question to Tadzio, and
that's highly concrete.
Just quickly, and the other one was: is there a single point where we fail?
I want to start there because if I can just quickly put the sort of mobilizing activist hat off and put the political science hat on, that means I don't have to speak in any way an inspirational or positive way. Just bear with me. I think that we live in a deeply demobilized society. I think that the social structures, the social milieus within which people historically organized workers' movements do not exist anymore. The sort of all the stuff that's in the precarity debate, like when people say that we're super mobile, we don't identify ourselves as workers or with work. We identify with fleeting networks. All of this makes social movement practice, as we've historically known it, very difficult. Now, there's this new there's this trend in writing with sort of people are resurrecting Lenin, not because they all want to create Leninist parties, but because they're saying, well, what Lenin did was he created or came up, him, the Bolsheviks, with a form of organization that was appropriate to the current, to the model of working and the economy or the society at the time. So just, I wouldn't call myself a Leninist, but I'm saying that maybe our vision of how we organize social movements and mass action is stuck in another political economy, like one that is 30, 40 years old, possibly. And there have been various attempts made, like trying to organize these precarious organizations, networks, protests, to respond to the to these changes in society that are now sort of haven't very well summed up. But I don't think they've gone very far yet. And these are discussions that are just happening. We essentially had 30 years of neoliberal subjectivation where people learned that they don't find happiness in collective organizing but in consumption, individualized consumption. Now, we do see these patterns partly breaking down. People just can't buy all the shit anymore. It's true. But I don't think we, I'm just going to say the global left, I'm just going to speak extremely broadly in the movements, we haven't really, at least in the North, let's say, developed in a response to this. And I do agree with you, I think our conceptions of movement and of mass action are stuck in the past. Okay, so that was the negative bit, because we have no answer to that at all. But to come back to the situation, like let's say the pragmatic situation that we in the groups and movements that we find ourselves in, you were speaking a lot about a division of labor in the movements, and I think that's absolutely true. Like, we reach out to different people. So I'm going to quickly block your question by saying that, like, because I come from the sort of more radical, crusty wing of things, I can say, look, we're just going to try and shut down the coal-fired power plant that powers the microwave that this guy, fries his food in. So I can say that because we come from the part of the radical left that's antagonistic and says that, that guy, just tell him to fuck off and be different. Like, that's fine. But you have to maybe say something different. But that's why there's a division of labor, and other people can come up with far more endearing solutions and answers to your question than I can now. One thing that I think is very important for us coming from CJA in my wing of the movement is a commitment to civil disobedience and to breaking rules. I think that it's crucial to recognize that we live in a situation where all the rules are stacked in favor of the fossil fuel system and the production of more climate chaos and of injustice. That means we need to start breaking these rules, and a direct call again from us to folks who have more media access, more legitimacy and more resources is to say, support us when we break rules collectively. Like, support us when we call for civil disobedience, as we did a lot before Copenhagen. Don't just say somewhere in some meeting that you support us, but support us. Support us in the media, support us possibly with resources. Support Friends of the Earth did not let their activists participate in the Reclaim Power action officially. I think that was an enormous mistake. And that's the kind of, that's a division of labor, yes, absolutely. I'm totally fine with that, and I can't promise that everybody who wears a black hoodie is going to stop dissing NGOs. But we've totally changed our discourse in this regard in the climate justice movement, and I think that the NGOs and other groups need to open themselves up to the possibility of mass civil disobedience. And in CJA in Europe is trying to organize a day of action on the 12th of October, Direct Action for Climate Justice, where we're going to shut down emitters and take a bunch of other actions. And it would be interesting to start getting a discussion about this that goes beyond just rhetoric. The last point I want to make is that in the climate justice movement, we have a bunch of bullet points as strategic goals. Because while I sort of disagree with your point about emissions trading, I agree with your point that there is a lot of radical rhetoric. If I in the North say we need to get out of industrial agriculture and move towards a system of localized, sustainable food sovereignty, that's an entirely empty slogan. For me, not for everybody in Europe, I'm exaggerating, I'm sorry. But like if I live in Berlin, I have no idea what that means, right? We need to work out what this can really mean. We talk about climate debt that needs to be recognized and repaid, and we come to the problem that John raised. Like, how can you call for the massive repayment of climate debt in a situation where there's all this austerity? Now, I think we still have to call for that. We need to work out how it can work, because if we just raise awareness but people don't have a strategy for action, how they can get involved, not just pick up the knowledge, but actually change their lives and everybody else's lives around it, then people are going to get frustrated. So we need to start translating the bullet points that we've been using in the climate justice movement as sort of goals, radical rhetoric as it were, into concretely actionable strategies, and my point is we're working on it.